Yo, everyone, we are back with for the final part in this ranking of the Mortal Kombat villains. Now, when we did this, I didn't think it would actually be 4 parts. I thought I would actually finish it off in 3, but hey, such is life. Anyways, Mega Zero, and with me I have.
Late night CJ, aka Sweet Daddy in the streets.
And I posted it at the end of this last video, but for our top 3 S tier villains in Mortal Kombat, we have at the bottom of the S tier Goro.
Wow.
Middle of the S tier being Shao Kahn.
Okay.
And the tippity top being Shang Tsung.
Interesting to say the least.
Well, since you think it's interesting, why don't you ask me a question? Why do you think, ask me a question on this. Like,
As far as what?
as far as, why do you think I chose these 3 characters for the top of the villain tier list, despite NetherRealm's writing into the new timeline?
Well, to be honest with you, I believe that
There goes my brother with his loud as frig switch.
I don't have a problem with what you're saying. I mean, what you said, because for one, they are the original crew, if you will. And I like I said, I could see it. I could see what you're doing there. I could see that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I just don't walk around just, oh man, heck no, we can't do this. That's not really, no, I don't do that, you know what I'm saying? I'm not a hater, if you will. But at the same time, I definitely understand it. You know what I mean? It makes sense. But, I feel like at this point, the originals have, and it's not nostalgia, in my opinion. The originals have to get a little bit of love because, one, they came in at a point where it wasn't all the technology and all the, everything was trial by fire, so to speak. You know, because not only we went from Mario as violence to literally now you got killing, but it had to make sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It had to make, okay, Shang Tsung, he steals souls and he can become people. Goro was like, we ain't never seen no forearm dude that pick you up and then beat on your chest or jump out and land on you and stomp you in. You know what I mean? So it definitely had a different flair. It was something new. It's just like how people say Michael Jordan is the GOAT. You know what I mean? But there's things that these new guys are doing that Michael Jordan never could do. But we still have to give them their credit.
Yeah, it's like, for these 3 characters, I feel like it's kind of obvious as to the reasons why they are where they are.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I don't have, Shao Kahn, despite the fact he was kind of like an incredible boss, within 2 or 3, and he was smart in cutting between each of the games.
Right.
Again, this is kind of on NetherRealm's fault, where they gave a lot of thunder, like his plan to invade Earthrealm. In 3, which was his plan, they made it Quan Chi who did it.
Right.
In the new timeline, in the new timeline, he's basically just a meathead who thinks about conquering. Doesn't really plan out his ideas. He has broken the rules. He didn't stuff like this. In the old timeline, he was a planner, schemer. Like, he knew that Quan Chi and Shang Tsung were coming to assassinate him, so he had a fake set in place to where he can go survive. He manipulates the situation to where Goro, who was on Kitana's side by the end of Mortal Kombat 4,
right,
he made him come back to his side because he felt like he owed him because he set up a plan. So Shao Kahn in the old timeline is not an idiot. He's a tactical genius because when you rule a realm for a couple thousand years, I'm pretty sure you had to be a genius. Well,
Right.
not genius, but definitely smart. Smarter than like your average Joe on the street.
Mm-hmm.
Now, then that's why I kind of have him in the middle, mainly because the new timeline makes him like an idiot.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in the only reason he's kind of like in the middle is because, and not the bottom, is also due to the fact that in the new timeline with Aftermath, they allow you to play as the villains, and the villains finally get some wins.
Right.
And he's able to kill off the unkillable Garrus somehow. He breaks Liu Kang's legs.
Jesus.
And that somehow affects zombie Liu Kang, but that's the Revenant Liu Kang, but that doesn't make sense because he's already dead, so why would his body be restored?
Right.
And he defeats Kung Lao. He throws him into the Sea of Blood, but we don't see a body, so I don't count that as
See
a
a
kill.
blood one where it just goes bottomless.
Yeah. I don't count throwing Kung Lao as a win because he didn't kill him. We didn't see a body at the end of it, so...
There's room for him to reincarnate.
Who else did they have? He kills Kodo Khan. But then again, like, Kodo Khan was like the whipping boy of Mortal Kombat 11 because after his chapter, everyone was beating up on Kodo Khan. He was a cripple by the time in Aftermath.
Oh man, come on, Brad, come on.
But I will give it to them that, like, because you get to play as the villains, you do actually get more wins, and thus he kind of elevates more to about the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Goro's kind of on the bottom end because he just hasn't done as much, unfortunately, in comparison to Shao Kahn.
He was the original goon.
He was the original, like, big boss, even though Shang Tsung was the final boss of Mortal Kombat.
Mm-hmm.
Most people thought, like, there
Whoa,
was, like...
guys, people out of there.
Yeah, it's like there was like a joke back in the arcade, like, oh, nobody gets past Goro, or I believe Sub-Zero or something along the way. I think it was Goro.
You can just jump to the screen and land on you. You go to do
I believe that was Kintaro. Well, the reason I could get past Goro is because I found a way to cheese him as a kid with Sub-Zero.
Or Scorpion.
No, it was Sub-Zero. I would freeze him, uppercut him, and as soon as he was getting up, I would freeze him again. Or I would sweep him, and then
uppercut his feet.
Uppercut his feet.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the whole reason kind of like Goro's not upper, but it's like not on the top head of Shao Kahn is because he has most of the stuff we know about Goro is kind of through supplemental material and stuff told about us.
Mm-hmm.
He was the champion of Mortal Kombat for Outworld for 9 tournaments after he beat Great Kung Lao, which was Liu Kang and Kung Lao's ancestor.
Right.
And he beat him and became the tournament champion. And he wasn't evil in the old timeline. He was just kind of doing his job. He was just like following Shao Kahn. It's like, he's the leader of my realm. I kind of have to follow him. It's like
Boss man.
It's like if the president came and told you like, hey, I need you to do something. He's like, all right.
Yeah.
Like, I can't really.
Military.
Yeah, it's like I can't argue with that. It's like, so he wasn't really evil until like you could say like near the when Shao Kahn quote unquote rescued him when he set up that whole situation. That's the only time you could really like, all right, he's kind of evil now because he's working for the bad guy, even though he was on Katana's side for like a tiny bit. And then he's just kind of like, yeah, he unfortunately he is like a servant to Shao Kahn, so
right.
He doesn't really have much personality. Interesting fact though, he has 7 wives, so he has a harem.
That's what the 4 arms is for.
So like here's your answer.
Touch somebody. You know what I mean?
Another thing. Kintaro was his replacement, but people didn't like Kintaro as much as Goro. Not because it's bad, it's because like I don't know, maybe people found Kintaro like, oh, it's just another Shokan, but a cat that breathes fire.
Well, we were somewhat desensitized.
Yeah, so and they started a whole thing, like they introduced a new race because of Goro, like Shokan and Minotaurs and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Like all these, it just kind of like opened the floodgates to all these like weird people that were in Shao Kahn's army. So it's kind of like weird in a way, but also entertaining. Now though, that's kind of the only problem. Like with the new timeline though, we don't see him as like, oh yeah, he's in Mortal Kombat 1 in the new timeline for Mortal Kombat 9. He's supposed to lose, so we don't see him much. But he says he at least is somewhat respectful to Liu Kang. But then by the time Mortal Kombat 2 rolls around, he's basically just like an evil minion at that point. There's supposed to be a whole thing about him becoming Onaga's reincarnation as opposed to Reptile in the old timeline.
Oh, Naga. Which one was that?
The Dragon King, the big old dragon dude. Because in the comic, he got
With
his
the wings and all that.
Yeah, he got his arms cut off in the comic. And
what is it with these people in arms?
yeah, but he has 4 arms cut off.
Arms.
He was able to beat up Kenshi though without the 4 arms. Apparently, we don't know. Maybe he used the trap, or maybe he just used his big old feet and kicked his face in. We don't know. It's just implied like, oh hey, here we go. Here's Kenshi. Now, tell me how I could get my arms back. Oh, you know about the Dragon King? I've heard of him. Well, here, we might have something to help you. Except the comics were discontinued, and thus we never got that. But it's mentioned in pre-fight dialogue in 11 by Shiva that I think someone asked, like...
Shiva?
Yeah, the female show.
Big, tall, 4-arm
someone asked her the question of...
the one with the big booty?
I didn't say it. I didn't even know. They asked the question, is it true that Goro became Onaga's reincarnation? Mm-hmm. And Shiva says, like, his flames almost scorched all of Outworld. I think they say that's a good thing he isn't here now. So, yeah, they scrapped that storyline, unfortunately, so we never got to see that.
Right.
So, Goro could have became Onaga, but then again, it's Onaga at that point and not Goro. Mm-hmm. Like the same way that Onaga's body in Deception and Armageddon is technically reptiles.
Right.
And in Armageddon, his soul is brought back as a physical form, but... So, unfortunately, like, that's the reason Goro's, like, on the bottom of the S tier. He's kind of there for nostalgia and the fact that he was the OG, like, big boss. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, then he just kind of, like, dwindled down. But I still feel like he deserves to be on S tier over someone like Onaga, who's only had, like, 2 games and a few mentions to be around. Whereas Goro's technically just kind of always been around, but it's, like, the nostalgia kicking in. Like, oh yeah, like I said, he was like the OG. He was the big man on campus, so to say.
I can say that.
Now we move on to our final S tier, being Shang Tsung. Now, Shang Tsung. He, in the old timeline, he was kind of like a servant. Again, he ran the whole tournament. But if you look into like one of the older comics, apparently he was just someone who was kind of there as an advisor in the tournament, and then it said it basically is implied he killed off the other like advisor that basically became the host. Right. He was the champion. Great Kung Lao came in, beat him. Then he was the champion, and he hired Goro. So in this whole situation, like throughout the old timeline, Shang Tsung doesn't really accomplish much other than technically killing Liu Kang, but he did that with Quan Chi's help.
He said technically.
Like he's the one who delivered the final killing blow, snapping Liu Kang's neck. Right. But without Quan Chi there to distract Liu Kang and blast him in the back, he wouldn't have gotten his chance to kill Liu Kang. Right. And they killed a fake Shao Kahn, so I really don't count that.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, like I doubt it's Shao Kahn at full power. It's just a fake one. So and they end up defeating Raiden, but then he gets defeated by Quan Chi. Then Onaga shows up, and then Raiden blows himself up to try and
which is crazy.
Defeat him. That didn't work. I feel like his idea that kind of puts him above other people is the fact that he can steal your soul in the old games and transform into those characters. Right. But it also causes insane load times and lag because they had to load up a whole different moveset all at once.
Absolutely.
But I feel like that was also made him unique. He was the first boss. He just kind of stuck around always throughout the old timeline, regardless pretty much of what game is in. The only exception you could probably say is 4. Because 4, he was not in there. He's basically replaced by Quan Chi. 5, which was Deadly Alliance, he was one of the big bosses. Deception, he was an antagonist in there for Shujinko for a little bit. Because Shujinko's dream was to defeat Shang Tsung. Right. So he was in there, but you really couldn't fight him. In Armageddon, he was like one of the quote-unquote like 4 big antagonists of like the past. Like he teamed up with Quan Chi, Onaga, and Shao Kahn to try and see who can defeat Blaze. It doesn't matter who. It's just like as long as we win and the light side doesn't win. Right. So it's like he's kind of always been around. He hasn't been a major antagonist, but he's always been kind of like up there with them. And like that's why he's kind of like holding on to his position so far.
Well, let me ask you this: what made you like just totally go with the old school guys as being the top ones that you saw?
A bit of nostalgia, a bit of new writing in the new timelines.
Mm-hmm.
Because despite the fact that they lost constantly in 9 and 10, or
Right.
technically 9, they gave them some wins finally in 11. And they have a bit. Shao Kahn isn't as charismatic as Shang Tsung because they got the old movie voice actor for him
Right.
to play him, so I feel like he has a bit more of a charismatic charm to him. Because then again, Shang Tsung has always been kind of slimy as a character.
Right.
Whereas Shao Kahn, in the new timeline, at the very least, kind of just brute forces his way through everything.
Right.
And that's why I feel like Shang Tsung as a character is superior to Shao Kahn, at least in terms of the writing. Because he thinks about all these plans and has a whole different concept of trying to go about it to try and win.
Mm-hmm.
And he does, because in Aftermath, he finally does get some wins, even though the story writing is bad. He's able to defeat both Sindel and Shao Kahn at the same time, but granted, he had augmentation to his powers. He was able to defeat Kronika,
Mm-hmm.
and due to how you play the story, you can have him beat Liu Kang, and he becomes like the new person to rule over time.
Right.
So I feel like, oh yeah, he's definitely grown far and above over Shao Kahn, who, again, is just essentially a meathead in the new timeline.
Is that a meathead?
Because, like I said, you know how earlier I was explaining,
like
like,
a
oh yeah,
goon kind of now.
not like a goon. He was just like a boss, but a boss who really shouldn't be there. It's
Right.
like a boss who got there because,
Nepotism.
like,
Almost.
almost like that, or you could say like I got here because my parents said worked here as well, or they were above it and all that.
Right.
Like whereas in the old time, like he was smart and cunning to a extent, like actually far more smart than he is in the new timeline.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's like, I can't take this one guy in a straight up fight. Let me beat him in another way by poisoning him, and he killed him that way, being Onaga. And then he used his strength and his master of sorcery to subjugate everyone else in Outworld. So it's like, and then he merged other realms, so that means he also had to invade them, defeat them in Mortal Kombat.
Right.
All these things, like, okay, so he's smart, but he's like in a new timeline.
Right.
How did he keep his empire for so long? Other than the fact that he just probably seems so strong and he just shrugs it off, and that's supposed to be a good villain.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I am strong. Strong.
What is strong?
Yeah, I'm deliberately doing that.
Oh, okay. I was about to say, man, where the hell that came from?
But yeah, that's why I feel like Shang Tsung like is superior to Shao Kahn Goro, and that's why I feel like he's like on the top of the tier list. He has a bit of a charismatic charm to him, especially in 9 and 11, because he's not in 10. Obviously, he's not in 10 unless in like 2 endings technically. Because for some reason in Cassie Cage's ending, they had Shujiko basically turn into Shang Tsung because he could steal souls for some reason. We don't know why, but he just could. And he comes back in Ermac's ending, like basically breaking out of Ermac's body and starts consuming his soul, I believe.
Is he more charismatic in movie? And that's kind of
I feel like the movie version, they transferred some of that charisma over to... Well, I feel like the movie version had a little bit of charisma, and it's just the way he looked and the way he talked.
Right.
Like, that's why one of his alternate outfits has a movie outfit for him.
I can see that.
And, like, the charisma and the way he just kind of talks in 11, where he speaks elegantly and politely, but you just know for a fact he's going to stab you in the back to further his own games. Like, that kind of... At least he's open about it, is the thing.
He said, "Nah, I'm going to kill you after this."
Even in... Mortal Kombat vs. DC Universe, which is technically like Mortal Kombat 8.
Mm-hmm.
He throws some shade here and there against everyone else. Like, he throws some shade at Kano. Like, when he got beaten up by the Joker, he's like, you were defeated by a clown. It's like, it's funny.
Like,
sure.
Get out of here. How do you do that?
Yeah, but that was the whole story point. But across pretty much every single game, like, Shang Tsung's been kind of up there with everyone. Especially, like, in 11. Even though in 9 he was kind of like unceremoniously killed off.
Right.
But in 11, I feel like that's kind of like what escalates him above everyone else. And I feel like that's a good place to kind of like end our tier list. Like with the villains and all that. Because like, I feel like let's talk about the top 3. I'm like, I got all my points across fairly quickly. Goro's there because unfortunately he's kind of like an orbiter character, but he's kind of out there because he was an OG. There was a plot line that was supposed to involve him.
I wish they would have gave him more of like. Remember how like on the first game, of course they didn't speak. You had to read the.
You had to read like the information. Like he was like the champion of Mortal Kombat. He's held the thing for like 9 years.
I wish they could have, in them older games. Remember, like on Mike Tyson's Punch Out, how like they be talking in the corner, and be like, yeah. I wish they had established a personality then, so then we could, as the audience,
like they do have this. It's later for Goro because it's in 4. Kung Lao, it looks like Kung Lao was like it looks like Kung Lao was gonna kill him, but Goro says like Goro's like technically like honor bound. He's like, look, I didn't want to kill him. He was a worthy warrior. If he had killed me, it might have been my son that had been standing in your place trying to kill him now. But Kung Lao's like, nah, I don't even want to kill you. It's like that was just a strike to avenge my ancestor, and they shake on it at the end of it. So it's like. He has like an honor code, but like in 9, there's like 9, 10, and 11. There's like no honor code for him.
No honor amongst killers. That's my mantra right there. I kill people. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Shao Kahn's mainly on here, mainly for the old timeline and aftermath. Not really what he does in 9.
Now you owe the audience an apology.
For what?
You know why?
I really don't actually. Oh, for what?
How are you gonna leave off Chun-Li? Off this.
Please, I have a headache from earlier. Please don't make me laugh.
Clearly.
Oh my god.
Clearly, she should have been editing the S.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna have a headache. By the end of this, I already had a headache earlier because of what happened. I celebrated Easter. But Shao Kahn's sitting kind of in the middle of this here. Like I said, because of most of the old timeline and aftermath, only a little bit of aftermath because he technically can get some wins, and not in 9, and he's not even mentioned in 10. Right. So and Shang Tsung's up in S, the top one, mainly because he's been up in the forefront pretty much for a good portion of all the games. Right. He's kind of been schemer background. He always had backup plans, like kind of just in case stuff went down. He's like, I'm planning to betray Quan Chi. I'm gonna hire these 2 only to kill him. Right. Or in case stuff goes down, I'm going to betray Quan Chi. He's always had his own plans in this game. So I feel like the charismatic attitude he has in 9, but mainly like in 11, kind of boost him above everyone else. And the fact that he can technically win the whole thing. Like, this is the one time like the villains get like the ultimate win. Right. Rather than like what's told to us in the past. A tier is occupied only by Onaga, because I feel like pretty much from B tier onward, no one really comes close to these characters in terms of how they're likable or how powerful and lore related they are. Right. So Onaga's kind of sitting comfortably like in 4th place. I feel like if I could switch Goro and Onaga, you could probably get them, but I feel like it's because Goro's OG, whereas Onaga came in later.
That's right. He put it in work since the beginning.
Yeah.
He got seniority.
For B tier, we have Rain, Revenant Liu Kang, Ermac, Reptile, Melina, Cyrax, Shinnok, Dagon, Kintaro, Sector, Scorpion, Devora. I don't like 2 of these characters, but they do work as villains, even though I personally hate them. Right. So Scorpion, I feel like is an antagonist rather than a villain, but his actions and roles do cause problems from both sides. So he's kind of like an anti-hero or anti-villain. Right. So he's like, it's me against the world at this point. But he eventually does become a hero, but he does do it work. Right. Some of these characters are unfortunately jobbers, but due to the way that they're written, how powerful they are, and how the story is written, because Ermac in the old canon was super powerful, and that's why he is like considered one of the most powerful combatants. But in the new timeline, he never wins a fight. So yeah. So I feel like everyone could kind of agree that most of these characters, with the exception of probably like I don't know, like the bottom row of B tier, will probably be there.
I believe your list is very honest. It's not a sense of nostalgia
like
versus revisionist history. It's literally.
I'm kind of looking at it. Like, there's some nostalgia, like little bits. Like Goro's kind of nostalgia. Melina's like, all right, kind of nostalgia. I'm kind of like looking at these characters like objectively as villains, like in terms of their effectiveness and how like bad, like quote unquote bad, like how evil they were, or versus like oh they're
level of evil.
Yeah. C
Or
tier evil. Baraka is in upper.
No, that's the one you got wrong. Yeah, that's wrong.
Well, I feel like
wrong, son. Wrong.
All right. Well, we'll just leave it at that. Kano is because he has never won a fight in this like entire series. He exists purely to be a rival at this point.
Google Brooklyn Brawler, all the people out there, if you want to know what Kano could be.
We got Noob Saibot and the original Sub-Zero. I feel like you can't separate them from the two because they're pretty much the same character. Though Noob Saibot is basically Sub-Zero's darker tendencies brought to the surface. I hate Quan Chi, but his effectiveness as a villain pretty much cements
his ability with the swords.
Not really. He has swords for like no reason. And he's only upper C tier because he steals everyone's plans in 9. He's seen as like a master manipulator, but he was an idiot in the old timeline because he deliberately eggs on the original Sub-Zero to try and beat him, which he does. So he fails and thus prevents Shinnok from escaping. He antagonizes Scorpion, and thus that leads to Scorpion hunting him down for years and trying to torture him and kill him. So, and then he's seen as a master manipulator, but that gets him killed and gets his cojones stomped on and broken. Like, that's an actual cutscene. Go find it if you want to watch
That's how that works.
Cabal is just kind of in there because of Revenant, but even though he was like a hero at the time, he forms like he's kind of like the second in command of the Black Dragon because Kano was kidnapped in the old timeline. Tanya's in there mainly because she betrays everyone and is trying to ensure her own survival. Moloch's in there because he's Moloch. He's in there for a little bit of nostalgia and difficulty, but he really isn't a great character. He's more annoying, but he is just flat out like evil. Aaron Black's just there because he's a mercenary. You can pay him to fight for the good guys and he'd be a hero technically. So it's like, here's $1 million gold. Fight for us forever. It's like, okay.
Dogs.
Yeah. Blaze is purely an antagonist. So he's an antagonistic force. He's not evil, but he's in C tier because he has an antagonistic nature about him. To swords, some of the characters. He's like, hey, no, do this. And it's like...
He's bossy?
A little, but that only means like, no, we're all tied to the quest. We will fight. One of you two have to kill me. If anyone else kills me, we're screwed. So one of you do it. He's like, all right, let us kill you. He's like, no, I can't let you do that. Like, it's against my design. So, he's like, I can't let you kill me, even though I'm designed to be killed. Right. Scarlet's just there. Unfortunately, she was a DLC character, then was added in the comics for 10 and 11. She just doesn't really do anything. She's kind of an orbiter character. Frost doesn't really do anything. She tries to challenge Sub-Zero, loses every single time.
Keep talking, Hunter.
Shiva is not really an antagonist in a way. In 11, she basically found out that she just basically does what she wants. She only did that because Shao Kahn basically ordered her to, and she serves Sindel. But as soon as she finds out that Sindel's evil and trying to go against Outworld, she goes against her. So even though she's not really an antagonist, that's why she's sitting at the bottom of the C. D tier, I feel like anyone can pretty much agree on for these characters for being like really nothing happening towards them, because Raiden's not even really an antagonist. He's hyper focused on a goal, but that goal makes him.
Raiden is a bum.
Well, Dark Raiden's not even. I would say he's evil, but not real evil. It's like if you took one thing that person was hyper focused about, and they would go to any lengths to make sure that goal is complete. Or
you know why I never really liked Raiden as somebody to play with?
Why?
Because like one of his main things was the whole push from across the screen, right?
Yeah.
The thing is, if you blocked it, he just spun in the air and waited to get uppercutted.
Oh yeah.
So it's like if you played against somebody that had like a good defense and just wasn't a button masher.
Yeah. You in uppercut city.
Yeah, you nullify him because all I could do is like, because then now all you got is the projectile.
He's talking from the old game's perspective, not the new ones.
You have the projectile where you could, just shoot the lightning. But then when they came with that other chick, I think it was in what, 2?
Who?
3? No. It was like 4 or something like that. She was in all white. Or she was like Raiden.
No, that was Deception, Ashra.
Right, but she did the little spin where it was like an uppercut.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so it was like they gave all the powerful things of Raiden to her, but also like his weaknesses. They able to make them better through her. I was like, why didn't y'all just do that with Raiden?
Well, it's always good to expand on the lore of a game and the series, and that's why you only have like pretty much mainstays across each game are like Liu Kang, Johnny Cage, or not even Johnny Cage at this point. Liu Kang, Sub-Zero, Scorpion. Everyone else is kind of expendable in a way that they could be like used or pushed around. But yeah, Dark Raiden, because he's not really an antagonist. He has antagonistic force and attitude towards it, but I wouldn't say he's truly evil. He's just hyper focused on one goal, which is defending his home, which in of itself is a good thing. Like I said, though, he's just hyper focused. Geras is just a follower, but due to his concept and time powers, he's basically above everyone else. All the Revenants here on DT are just idiots because they follow orbit characters. Because I'm pretty sure Katana did not want to work with Shao Kahn, even if she's dead. She'd be with the Revenants basically be hyper characters that had their emotions turned up to 3,000. That's atrocitus.
I thought I heard something. I'm like, man, what the hell going on, man? Do I gotta go get my pistol?
Yeah, that's it. I'm kidding. Ferritor, orbited character, barely any character to them. They're nothing about them. They just work for Kodokan. The chameleons, they are just kind of there. They're never really explained why they're there, with the exception of female. Male chameleons apparently was just there. He was like, oh, I was in the background. I noticed everything. It's like, he's not even really a character. He's just like, imagine if a ninja was super stealthy and got the kill on the boss. Female chameleon, not really an antagonist because we don't really know that much about her personality. Draman, antagonistic as an Oni, fails as a character because he lost every single fight. He has like no personality other than he's greedy and slightly stupid. And
Tell him how you really feel, son.
Collector did not need to be a character.
That
was a waste. Collector was a wasted character slot.
I feel like you don't like Collector at all.
Not really, no.
Like he was a pointless character.
He was a pointless character. He does nothing. He was just there to have like a different race in the outworld and have a different playstyle to fill out a roster slot on Mortal Kombat. You could have brought back any other character from the older timeline. I feel like you would have some fans. I feel like people play Collector not because of his character, but I feel like they play him because he's a pretty good fighter in game. That's, I feel like, the only reason that they play him.
True that.
Kronika's at the bottom because nothing was going to change my mind because they changed the whole story from fighting to defend the realm to one about time travel. The rule of cool makes her look like an idiot. Even though she's supposed to seen this countless conversation with Raiden thousands of times, she still hasn't created a perfect balance between light and dark because apparently Raiden and Liu Kang mess it up. But she can't just erase them because that upsets the light and balance, so they have to be there, so they're necessary evil. Yada, yada, yada. She's a terrible character, how she's written. They try to overturn the lore with her introduction.
Well, how about this? Tell me something good about the character.
What? About Kronika?
Yeah, just pull one out the sky, man. It can't be that. It can't be a 0 out of 10. Oh, you being biased as hell now.
No, okay.
Man.
I'm actually thinking. I'm trying to think of like what is time manipulation because no one's really ever done that in Mortal Kombat. Like she has time manipulation to an extent. Well, to an extent, I say that's her whole thing. She's the titan of time, and it's cool. I'm gonna stop there before I go on another rant. But yeah, that's the MK villain tier list.
Yes.
Am I a little biased here and there? Obviously.
I am Late Night CJ, and these are my nuts.
My name is Omega Zero, and we'll catch you guys later. Oh my goodness.